What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of the Premier League Spurs-Spective, the penultimate, actually, episode of the Premier League Spurs-Spective of the season, where me and my brother go head-to-head on predicting Premier League outcomes. This is the review section. The scores on the doors at the moment are 444 to 415. It's going to take a mammoth last weekend of the season to make this one up. But let's get straight into it, and let's start off with Spurs against Burnley, which finished 1-0 to Spurs. Obviously, Sim went 2-0, I went 3-0, so both of us getting 3 points on the board for this one. Look, I think that we did well to win the game. It was difficult circumstances, and at the end, last 10 minutes was extremely nervy. But we got the job done, didn't we?
Yeah, and I think the fact that we had such a quick turnaround, look, at the end of the day, Burnley's best player was Nick Pope. You've got to say that as well. So it's not as if Burnley, from their point of view, were absolutely brilliant and they were peppering us. It was the fact that we missed chances, but we were hanging on at the end. But I think it was tiredness, fatigue that was playing its part, and we did very well to get over the line. And at the end of the day, I don't think we were under too much jeopardy. I think we did well to manage the game. We got maybe a bit lucky with the penalty, you'd say. I think it was a penalty, but maybe a bit of luck, the fact the way it came about. But I think we deserved the win, and what a big win it was.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get into why it was such a bit... I'm sure you already know why it was such a big win. We all know. But we'll get into that a bit later in the episode. But let's go to the next game, which is Aston Villa against Crystal Palace, which finished 1-1 on the day. Sim went 2-2, so he gets 3 points. I went 2-1 to Villa, so I get 0 points there. But what did you make out of this one?
Yeah, we were obviously on our way back from the game, so I didn't see much of it. But I think both at this stage of the season, both teams probably happy to take a point. But all eyes now for Villa on the final game of the season against City, because Liverpool fans will be hoping Gerrard can do them a favour. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I didn't even think of it like that. But Steven Gerrard will be desperate to get points off City. Although there's a bit of a conflict of interest, because if Grealish wins the league, just Villa get money for it in the clause of his contract.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They get like 10 million or something.
Jesus Christ.
So do you reckon Villa will fold?
You know what?
Will the Gerrard effect be more important?
You know what? It's going to be a battle between like Steven Gerrard and the owners.
The owners like, no, you better lose that game, mate. Gerrard's like, nah, I'm doing it for my club, mate.
But on the flip side of that, can Villa finish higher in the league? Because there is extra money for each league place.
Yeah.
Not as much as 10 million though.
I don't think it's 10 million to each place, but can Villa fit? I'm sure they can. I think, where are they at the moment? They're currently 14th. If with a win, they could potentially go as high as 11th, potentially.
So yeah, the 10 million will be a lot more valuable to them. That's for sure.
So they'll try and lose.
That's a really interesting one, that. But you got to expect them to go out there with Steven Gerrard at the helm. They're going to go out there and try their best and try win that game for sure.
You have to think so, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the next game. Leeds against Brighton finished 1-1. Sim went 1-0 to Leeds. I went 1-1, so I get 5 points in this one. And I believe, it was right at the last second of the game. So finally, I get a last-minute 5-pointer to come through. But probably is too late in terms of trying to win the Spurs-Spective. But good point for Leeds, wasn't it, in the end? Because if they would have lost that game, they would have been big trouble.
Yeah, it's actually...
they are in big trouble still.
Yeah, they definitely are. But it was interesting because... as much as Leeds dropped points, they actually were the only team to in the relegation battle to actually pick up a point.
Yeah.
So on the day, I definitely, considering it was a last-minute equalised result, definitely a massive point gain for them, and it takes them outside the relegation zone going to the final day. Obviously, Burnley play tomorrow, and Everton, so they have to hope results go their way. Especially, I think they definitely look at Burnley's more, because as long as they can finish above one of them, they should be all right. So they'll definitely be looking at Burnley's result tomorrow if they lose. But massive point for Leeds, and it takes them gives them a fighting chance going into the final day.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, Watford against Leicester at Vicarage Road. 5-1 to Leicester. Very much a resounding victory there. Sim went 3-1. I went 2-1. So both get 3 points there. But yeah, Watford limping out of the Premier League, aren't they?
It was actually a weird one because they went 1-0 up, and then from the highlights I watched, they had about 2 or 3 chances to make it 2-0. Like, they were really peppering Leicester, and then Leicester got an equaliser, and then they just ran riot, and they ended up winning 5-1. If you actually look at the XG, I think Watford actually might have got slightly more XG than Leicester, but Leicester somehow were more clinical. Great look. Good end to the season. But I think they're having a fairly positive end to the season, Leicester, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Yes, 2 wins on the trot. 8 goals scored in their last 2. I guess they were up Norwich
on
and
a
Watford.
whole, it's been like a good end, but I think they kind of stuttered in terms of their European campaign when they were going to the semi-finals.
Yeah, they got a slight chance of potentially finishing 8th above Wolves last day, and they play Chelsea tomorrow. So if they get a result there, if they get a result there, it takes the 3rd place to the final day.
Yeah.
But I can't see Chelsea losing to Watford.
No.
But yeah. All in all, very disappointing season for Leicester, who, after 2 5th-place finishes, would want to kick on. Although they did get to the semi-finals of the conference, but that's not really a consolation, is it?
I think for a team like Leicester it could be, but I think that they've been completely ravaged by injuries the whole season, especially in defence, and I think that's what's kind of been their undoing. And I think that if I was a Leicester owner and the Leicester players, I want to stick with Brendan Rodgers for next season for sure. But let's move on to West Ham against Manchester City, 2-2 in what could be big points there in terms of the title race. You went 2-1, I went 3-1, both to Manchester City. West Ham taking a 2-0 lead into half-time. Man City getting back into it in the second half, and Mahrez missing a penalty as well. What did you make out of this game?
Yeah.
I mean, credit to West Ham, but they probably should have won the game being 2-0 up at half-time.
Jarrod Bowen, man, what a season he's having.
Yeah.
Unbelievable double. He hasn't made his England debut yet, has he? He's got to be a shoo-in to get a call-up sooner rather than later. He's been unbelievable this season. I think he deserves so much praise.
Another player we could have had.
Yeah, and it was a great brace as well from him. He really has kicked on so well this season, Bo. And I had a feeling their last home game of the season, the fact they were out of Europe as well, they wanted to make sure they had a chance of getting Europa League football. I had a feeling West Ham would turn up, and they did, but they couldn't hold out. City came back strong in the second half. Grealish got a goal, own goal from Soufal, and then a missed penalty right at the end from Mahrez, which, you never know. Could cost them the league because they got a win at Villa, or at home to Villa. Obviously, they're big favourites to win, but they have to win. A draw's not good enough now after that result.
So if Mahrez would have scored that penalty, that would have been it.
It wouldn't have been it, but it would have been basically it, because even if City would have lost, they got such a big goal differential at the moment that pretty much would have been it. But it does leave it a bit open.
What's the difference between the
+6 in City's favour at the moment, which is mad because a couple of weeks ago, before City won 5-0 against Newcastle, it was like Liverpool were in the lead in goal difference, and it's been a big swing there. But look, obviously City's still heavy favourites going to the final day, but you never know. You got to remember the Aguero moment. They were playing QPR at home that day, and QPR even went down to 10 men and still took a 2-1 lead, and they had to, they nearly lost it. So it's, who knows? Like
I keep saying, you never know what's going to happen in the game of football. Obviously, there are massive favourites, and you expect a team to win, but you never know. Man City could go down to 10 men within 5 minutes of the game with a stupid challenge.
And
and that's why I'm saying the same for the Spurs-Norwich thing as well.
But they got big injuries at the back as well. They've been playing Fernandinho at centre-back. And with the firepower Villa have, Watkins and Ings and them lot, and Coutinho, they've got the ability to hurt them. Yeah. I'm not sure they've got ability to keep a clean sheet, but they definitely have the ability to score goals at City. So it's going to be interesting, I think, especially with the Gerrard factor and everything. I think it's going to be an interesting final game. I expect City to win, but it's not going to be very simple, I don't think.
It's 1 point in between them, right?
1 point. Yeah. Well, now, City and Liverpool won.
All right, let's move on to Wolves against Norwich, 1-1 on the day. Both of us going for 3-0 and 2-0. I went for 2-0. But yeah, poor result for Wolves, for a Norwich team that's been battered pretty much every week for a while now.
Yeah, and they'll be disappointed with that. Wolves, they went 1-0 down. Timu Pukki. It was actually such a poor goal. I saw Pukki just were given the freedom of the penalty area to just cut inside and shoot, and it squirmed into the near post. And they had a few chances, Norwich, early on. Wolves obviously took control. Nouri scoring with a header in the second half, and they piled on the pressure but couldn't get the winner in the end. But Norwich getting hopefully their final point of the season, and Wolves disappointing end to their campaign, really. After they looked like they were going to be challenging for top four, but they have fallen away in the end, haven't they?
I think in the last month and a bit, I mean, they've been terrible, really.
Yeah.
They really have. I mean, they've been absolutely stuttering to the end of the season, and they've been having shocking results week after week. I mean, I know they had a okay performance last week, but apart from that, they've been terrible, really.
They end their season at Liverpool as well, and Leicester. If Leicester win their last game, I don't know who they play, but if they win their last game, then they have the opportunity to overtake them even. I think the Leicester have Southampton at home, so if they win that, Wolves could finish 9th.
I think that Wolves, as much as they have been terrible in recent weeks, I think they can raise their games against the bigger teams. So I actually think that's going to be a tough game for Liverpool on the weekend because of the way Wolves can defend. I mean, they can defend well and they defend in numbers as well. So
True.
I think that can be a difficult game for Liverpool too. So both teams in the title race got difficult
Should
games.
be an interesting final day.
Yeah.
So all set up, isn't it?
All right, let's move on to Everton against Brentford. Both of us go, well, it finished 3-2 to Brentford on the day. You went 1-1. I went 2-1 to Everton. It was 2-1 to Everton at one stage, but the two sending offs made it really difficult for Everton. One right at the beginning, one right at the end, and Brentford took full advantage of that, didn't they? Because at 11 on 11, it only looked like one team were going to win it.
Yeah, Everton seemed to have a very, very big star. You know, Richarlison seemed on it. Calvert-Lewin got a lucky goal in the beginning, but it was a reward for the early Everton pressure, and it seemed like they were because a win would have kept them safe, wouldn't it? So it seemed they were determined to make sure that they're not going to go to the final day. But the game hinged on one moment, didn't it? Richarlison felt like he should have had a penalty. Then literally a few seconds later, they got the other end and get a red card, and all of a sudden the game changed. Should it be a penalty? I think it's one of those where Richarlison had a bit of the defender's shirt. The defender had a big bit of Richarlison's shirt. But if the referee doesn't give it, I don't think VAR's getting involved in that, unfortunately, for Everton fans. So I think it's one of those, if the ref gives it, then it's a penalty, but VAR can't get involved. So they'll feel hard done by, but definite red card. He was going for on goal and he tripped him up, and that's a definite red card. And they actually scored after that, Everton as well, with 10 men. They got a penalty, but they unfortunately couldn't hold out. And another great win for Brentford. Eriksen again, by the way, had a brilliant game.
Brilliant, yeah.
He's been, he is just running games at the moment by himself. He has been so good. I've been so impressed.
Great corners as well.
Yeah, got another assist from a corner. He has been unbelievable ever since he's come into our Brentford team. He's been one of the best, not just the best player for Brentford. He's been one of the Premier League's best players.
Agreed.
I really believe that, and it just shows how good he is. And you forget how good he was at Spurs, but man, he's been he's just a reminder of how good this guy is. I'm so happy to see him playing this well. And yeah, look, Brentford made sure that Everton have got something to worry about, and now Everton home to Palace on Thursday. Obviously, they win that, they are safe, but if they fail to win, it goes to the final day and they miss a chance to seal it. And I think, I've got a feeling Palace are going to get something, because Palace are very good away from home. So I think Everton will go to the final day.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think that...
You reckon Everton beat Palace?
Yeah, I do. I think that with the kind of atmosphere that was around Goodison Park last week in this Brentford game, it did seem like Everton had something about them. They started the game really well. And I think that if they kind of remove these mistakes of getting men sent off and being over-aggressive and making stupid decisions, I think they'll get over the line. I think their fans will push them over the line as well, especially in the last game where it doesn't really mean anything for Palace. So I got a feeling Everton will get over the line in the next game, but we'll talk about that in the Predict the Prem tomorrow. But what the hell was Salomon Rondon doing?
Oh yeah, 2 red cards as well. Yeah,
doing? He comes on and within 4 minutes, feet off the ground, his whole body off the ground, studs showing, the most dangerous challenge you've ever seen in your life. And this team are fighting for their lives, and he does that in the last minute.
Horrendous challenge. Definite red, definite deserving of the red card, and he's played his last game for Everton, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the game of the weekend. Newcastle against Arsenal, 2-0 to Newcastle at St James's Park. Both of us going at 2-1 to Newcastle, so a point each on this one. But you got to say, this was close to total domination from Newcastle.
Second week in a row we've overestimated Arsenal.
Yeah, I know. Crazy. And credit to Newcastle because they performed admirably well. So aggressive. Every time Arsenal lost the ball, Newcastle players were surrounding them. Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes were unbelievable on the day. And Callum Wilson as well. First game in a while, I think it was. And I thought he played really well too. Yeah,
and I think it was a big reaction from Newcastle from their perspective from the 5-0 defeat to City.
And the defeat to Liverpool.
And the defeat to Liverpool. They definitely didn't want to end the season with 3 straight defeats, did they? So they really turned up and they were absolutely fantastic. They didn't give Arsenal a moment's rest throughout the whole game. Arsenal barely got into Newcastle's half. It was actually Newcastle's proper domination. And they fully deserved it. They were brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant. And Arsenal, from their perspective, really shat the bed. They were absolutely horrendous. They didn't hurt Newcastle one iota. I can't remember one save Dubravka had to make throughout the game. I think their most dangerous moment was Odegaard having a shot blocked late in the game when they were already 1-0 down. It was only a matter of time before Newcastle got the second as well. They fully deserved it. Obviously, they Arsenal rushing Ben White back for this game and him scoring an own goal. Gabriel, and he also had a bad game. And what a costly defeat.
I thought Saka and Smith Rowe didn't even look fit either, to be honest.
Yeah, Smith Rowe was anonymous. I thought Saka actually first half there was a couple moments where I was like, okay, he looks good, and then but every time they got at him, they doubled up on him. And look, what a damaging defeat for Arsenal. Puts it in our hands now. We just got to make sure that we get the job done on Sunday. But thanks to Arsenal, and thankfully they lost and not even drew, so it means our job's even that bit easier. But we just got to make sure we get over the line on Sunday. But yeah, they really, from the position they were in, 4 points clear with 3 games to go. What a collapse from them.
And it's a big contrast to before the North London derby where Xhaka was riding away in his car saying, we don't talk, we do. And now after this game, he was like, oh, if we play like that, we don't deserve Champions League or Europa League football. So I thought it was a absolutely unbelievable interview from Xhaka at the end of the game. He was calling the shots. He was digging out his Arsenal teammates, even himself, and everything to do with Arsenal, to be honest. And I'm not going to lie, if I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy every single second of it. And Arteta's interview as well, he didn't know who to blame for the first time. He couldn't blame anyone but his own team and his own self. So happy days. Arsenal seem like they're down in the dumps at the moment, but we need to finish the job this weekend. As much as we're saying, how Liverpool and City both need to get the results against teams, albeit much better teams than Norwich. But like I said, anything can happen on a day of football. What happens if we get a sending off in the first few minutes? We're going to be...
I still back us to get a draw if we get with 10 men.
Yeah, I hope... so do I. But, anything can happen.
You never know. Of course, anything can happen, but... Conte will not let us take our afterball. I'm sure of that. Well, I have to believe that.
Look, I firmly believe that we're going to win or get a draw. Like, I can't believe for a second that we're not going to win the game, but I just know Tottenham too well, and I know football too well as well, that these things can happen.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, well, to be honest, right now, I actually don't back Arsenal to beat Everton.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I was actually saying yesterday, I was speaking to someone, and I was saying, I bet you now Spurs lose to Norwich and Arsenal lose to Everton.
Yeah, that'll be classic. I wouldn't
be surprised
Arsenal
if that happened at all.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's move on to the last game of the Spurs-Spective, which was Southampton against Liverpool, which finished 2-1 to Liverpool last night. Both of us going for 3-0 to Liverpool. Obviously, we were in the stadium, so we didn't actually see any of this game. But did you watch the highlights or anything?
I saw a bit that was on the screen, but Liverpool, with a seriously depleted team, you got to give it to them. 1-0 down, and they took it to the final day. They had a front three of Minamino and Firmino.
Are they going to have this depleted side last game of the season?
Not sure. I'm not sure who's back or who's not. Obviously, they got a Champions League final to think about as well. So they don't want to rush players back if they're not fit. I think Klopp would probably back even the fringe players to come in and win the final game, given how good his squad's been. But you got to give it to Liverpool. It was especially with the lineup they had and being 1-0 down. I think they were definitely up against it, and especially against the Southampton team who've got some big results. Especially against, I think I got two draws against City this season and stuff like that. But they done well to turn it around. They got the goal. They got the goals they needed. Minamino stepping up and getting a great goal. And they've taken it to the final day, and now it's all to play for. 1 point in it, and in football, it's fine margins, man. It's fine margins. And, it is not beyond the realms of possibility that City drop points on the final day. But Liverpool got to look at themselves as well. Make sure they get the job done and make sure they give City something to think about. So it's going to be very, very interesting going to the final day. How that plays out could be, you never know what we could be in for on that final day.
Absolutely. And do you remember the last time in the Premier League where relegation's not confirmed, title's not confirmed, top 4 is not 100% confirmed. Yeah. Top 6, top 7, all this, Europa League. I know we haven't had Conference League before, but all these things are not confirmed going into the last game of the season.
The only time I can remember is the Aguero day, because we were obviously fighting for top 4 that day. Well, no, was it top 4 or top 3? Because you finished 4th. It was to finish above Arsenal, wasn't it? Top 3. That wasn't confirmed.
Was that when we played Newcastle?
We played no. That was when we played. We played, I think, Fulham on the final day.
Right.
We won, and we was it Fulham? Yeah, we played Fulham on the final day, and we won 2-0. But Arsenal pipped us to third because of Martin Phillips' disaster class. And then obviously they had the Aguero moment, and City were playing QPR, who were trying to stay up.
Yeah.
And I think Bolton went down in the end. Right. So that was probably the final season. I remember all three. Everything was all to play for on that day.
All right, so there you have it. That's the history lesson for you guys. But let's move on.
Yeah, to be honest, when was the last time the title went to the wire like this? Because every season for a while it's been...
Probably that moment you're talking about. No, the title went to the wire when 2 years ago, isn't it?
When City won it, yeah, there was 1 point in it, wasn't it? And City won, I think, 1-4-1 at Brighton in the end on the final day.
Yeah.
But it's been a while.
That was also 1 point in it.
Yeah.
To the last game.
More often than not, though, like a team wins it with like 5 games to go recently, isn't it? That's how it's usually been.
But like that season was very similar title race to this year, both finishing on over 90 points, and
Yeah, top 4 hasn't been this close for a while as well. When was the last time top 4 went to the final day? I can't remember. Might have been that day because Newcastle was still in it that day. I remember as well. They could have finished top 4, but we won.
Newcastle
on the day that Aguero day.
Newcastle could have finished top 4.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, they had Pape Cisse and Demba Ba, that team.
Oh right, okay.
I don't remember any other time top 4 went to the final day in my memory. Can't remember.
All right, let's move on to the star men. I went for Harry Kane, obviously got the goal or the penalty, so I get 2 points there. Sim got Jamie Vardy with 2 goals on the day, so he gets 4 points. So we end off this week.
That was last season, actually, wasn't it? Top 4.
Top 4 last season.
Yeah, because we beat Leicester to deny them top 4.
Oh. So long ago. But no, we finished this week on 459 to Sim, 430. So what we have is 29 points going into the final week of the season. Tomorrow we'll be back for Predict the Prem, where we'll be doing the midweek fixtures and the final week of the final weekend of the season. 13 games. So there are some points to catch up, but I'm going to have a near perfect week, and Sim's going to have a disaster if I'm going to grab this win. But
I'm going to have to get some 5-pointers.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get some 5-pointers. But thank you everyone for watching us today. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,
come on, you Spurs.